Hi guys, we wanted to do a video for you on the Catholic Trial Module C question, which this year, 2025, was pretty tricky for a lot of people. It was a pretty specific question, and I know a lot of students were thrown off. So what we're going to do is just go through how to not only tackle this particular question, but just have a think about how you might need to alter some of the ways that you're preparing for your HSC, given that there are now so many external tools that can be used. Markers are really looking for students who can actually understand the module, the ideas, what they're writing about in such a way that they can then adapt it under exam conditions. So lots to do in the 40 minutes, but I'm going to hand over to Lily, who's going to just go through some tips on how you could not only answer that question, but prepare for the upcoming exams ahead.
Excellent. Thanks, Carla. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen with the questions. So often when we have a stimulus, I encourage students to approach it very metaphorically. Try and find an extended metaphor or a motif in it. Often we tell them that they don't have to use the character's name when it's in the stimulus. You can change it. However, the Catholic Trials paper this year threw us all for a little bit of a loop, because it says here, your piece of writing must be inspired by and include the line in the stimulus above. So as a result, a lot of students realized they couldn't use it metaphorically. And this threw them off. They felt like they had to write a totally new story and couldn't write any of the themes or ideas that they had previously prepared. And as we know, it's really difficult to try and come up with a story in 40 minutes that's totally new and original. So we just want to kind of give you some strategies today of how to approach something like this. The first one is just to stay calm for a second and think about your piece and really engage with the stimulus and see what ideas you could link to what you already have. So here we have, when Lee came to deliver the very last lines in the play, both the performer and the audience seemed almost to stop breathing, sharing a moment of silence. Okay, so the first thing is to think about, like, what is the most adaptable part of my piece? Could I adapt? Would something in my piece, such as the setting or the character, be able to be adapted to this? So for example, here we have a new setting of the theatre. Are there any elements or moments in your story that you could change to be a part of the theatre? If you've already got an element of craft of writing is something that we would recommend in your piece. So having an element of art, music, writing, could any of that you've already got as a motif be changed to theatre? A lot of those things still work together. Could you change it so that your character's passion somehow involves the theatre in some way? Another element is to consider, do you have a flashback in your piece? So do you have a flashback that is establishing a character who has been lost, or a key moment where a character felt passionate or connected to something? Could this moment then work in that? One of my students had a story about grief and loss, and a grandmother who passed away. So she had established a previous flashback where she felt connected with her grandmother, walking in the park or walking through an art gallery, something like that. That was pretty easy for her to then adapt to say that her grandmother was actually an actress, and she remembered watching her on the theatre and felt her passion, and that's something that had stayed with her, and that's something that she missed. So she was able to use that core moment as a place where she can incorporate the stimulus. So that's something that you could do as well. So sit back and think about, like, now as you're preparing for the HSC, what are the elements of my piece that are easily adaptable? How could I change the setting? How could I change the characters? If the character had to change, if the character who's lost or a key second character had to be changed, what could I do to make them to adapt to a new stimulus? So this would be a really good thing for you to approach in the future. Maybe just find some quotes and some stimuluses that are very specific and practice adapting them into your piece in this way.
Yeah, and I think preparing a couple of elements that will also help you then have a bit more time to adapt are the length of your piece. So with what you're writing, it really doesn't need to be more than a couple of hundred words, like 400 or 500 words really at the most. Obviously, we've seen some Module C questions that are 20 marks, so you should really have like a short version and a long version just to, accommodate for that. But the length is so important, because if you have something too lengthy and then you've got to start changing it around to a large degree, it's much more difficult. So have something that's really simple. We always recommend doing like like a very simple 3-part structure where a character is in the moment, in their setting, then you're just like describing or showing like, how they're feeling, what they're experiencing through this particular setting, but no movements happening. So really like flesh out that description. And so coming to the second thing, as Lily said, was into introducing this, like we call it like a metafictive motif, or like writing about creating a piece of music, or writing about painting, and that motif being something that stays with the character, and you see sort of give them a sense of freedom or a sense of connection or something. So when you've got like a very simple structure, so just go over that, you've got like where they are right now, then a flashback. And as Lily said, that would have been a really great way to integrate this one. And then you're sort of back to the present, really simple ending. Keep it short, have that motif in there, and then go and start playing around with lots of different questions. So the key to doing well in anything is lots and lots of practice questions, right? So, practice this one, practice ones from previous years, and really like it will make you a lot more confident with the different types of questions they can give, and also what you've like prepared, and the fact that if you understand like the core aspects of what they're looking for, then you're going to basically do a lot better under exam conditions. No one's just walking in and doing a great job with no practice. You've got to really do it beforehand. So hopefully that gives you a couple of tips. We do have heaps of videos on how to come up with ideas and stories and storylines and motifs on our channel. So you can go and have a look if you want any further guidance on approaching your Module C questions.